I'm Trevor Steven, Mental Health Ambassador for Causeway Technologies. Over the last 12 months, I've made a really good friend who's accompanied me on presentations at construction sites up and down the UK. I'd like to introduce you to Matt Hartle of Linden SGB. Matt, great to have you with us today. Could you tell me the story again that I've heard so many times this year, but every time I hear it, it's so emotive.
Thank you. So my name is Matt George Hartle, that's my nickname, George. Back in the day, scaffolding. I worked for Linden SGB, 18 years now. I'm head of the wellbeing and mental health there. I'm an advanced scaffolder by trade. Been in the construction industry 22 years roundabout, and before that I used to be in the army. I was in a very proud infantry regiment called the Staffordshire Regiment. Very big part of my life, and I was in that for about 6.5 years. And before that, for most of my life, not so much now as you can tell, I've done martial arts since I was about 7.5 years old, and I grew up being, not being, to be word to say, but man's man, that kind of environment. That's what I was brought up in. So everything in my life was going really well, if I'm honest, at one point. I was married, 3 beautiful children who I adore, holidays abroad, house, pet dog called Bolts, like the cartoon, did have the hamster called Rhino as well, but hamsters don't live as long, do they? And everything in life was going well. I was working, doing martial arts, teaching, training, and I was a bit old, but I was still fighting, doing Muay Thai and K1 in the ring and in cages now and again. And everything in my life was going well, like I said. And then all of a sudden, it was the father-in-law, Chris, who's the dad I've always wanted. He was just perfect, this guy. I'm not just saying it, I'm just bigging him up. He just was super talented. He could play the drums, he could play the guitar. I've got pencil drawings of my kids that he's done, and they're not good. They look like photos on the wall. And that's, Chris got cancer. And for somebody who had cancer, everything was going well. He had like chemo, and everything was going well in life. And he was just such a good guy. I can't pick him up enough. So what was going to happen, he had to have an operation at the end of this chemo. And everything was going. I remember speaking to him the day before his operation. And this is the type of man, somebody had upset my daughter. And nobody upsets your kids today. And upset. It was a family feud, you know the ones, don't we? We've all had them. It's silliness, really. And Chris, I remember him saying, you've got to be happy in life. And this is the kind of man he was. He was looking out for me the day before his operation. That's the kind of man he was. So anyway, Chris had the operation. The operation was a success. And what happened, he just wouldn't wake up. His body started failing. So I remember rushing up there to the Q&E in Birmingham with the wife at the time and saying goodbyes, I remember having to be strong for the wife, be strong for the kids. Yeah. Who did I talk to?
I know there's no one.
No one. Why not? When we talk about it, why not? Was it the way I was brought up? I think there's a big part of it. The environment that I am, whatever that's meant to be, like a man's man, I'm not getting into that. It's just, I was told, no, don't cry. And, from a young age, you don't cry. So yeah, I remember that happening. I remember my wife asking me the next day, she asked me if I was all right. I was having a cup of tea. That's a cup of tea, by the way, guys, yeah. Where I'm from, I was out looking at the sunrise. I remember her asking me if I was okay, and I just said yes. And I just went back, and I know I started pushing people away. Started having a few drinks on the night time, and that's where it started. And everybody's been through bereavement and death, and you carry on with life. And this happened when I was about 38. This was the first start of it all. I didn't know what mental health was. I know now I suffer with depression. Not all the time. I'm not always depressed. I'm not on medication anymore, but sometimes I dip. But I didn't know what it was. And the way I used to deal with it, I used to get on it. That's how it is in construction. Back in my day, I used to have a few drinks. So what happened, we carried on as we do with life, and we was probably rebuilding. But I remember I had a fight on a Saturday night. He was in a cage. I'm not one of the idiots in the pub, guys. And I think I won this one, but, if anyone knows K1 or Muay Thai, you get punched a lot and hit a lot in the head. That's why I'm so pretty, if I'm honest. And I remember coming out of the cage, I had cuts on my face. I couldn't walk on one leg. I was happy because, I've come out of the fight, and I remember having a phone call off my niece saying my mum was in hospital. And I remember this dread and thinking, I've got to get back, and my friend took me back. I was in Gloucester, I got to Sandwell A&E in Birmingham, in Sandwell. And I remember limping into the A&E. I remember doctors and nurses coming to treat me because I thought I'd just been beaten up outside. And I remember going around and I saw my mum. And my mum looked in better shape than me, if I'm honest. She did. She said, "What you doing here?" She said it in a typical black country lass kind of way, where I'm from. And then what was nice, all my siblings were there. So I've got 3 older brothers and an older sister. And life gets in the way, doesn't it? And we don't see each other, but we all get together when needs be. Silly squabbles. When my mum was there, all the squabbles went out the window. It doesn't matter, it's your old girl. Anyway, my mum looks in pretty good shape, and they said, we're going to run some tests, and we're going to come and pick her up in a couple of days. I remember coming back a couple of days later, and them saying, your mum's not coming out, she was riddled with cancer. It was everywhere. They gave my mum 3 days to live. Tough old bird my mum was. She lasted 18 days. Best 18 days you could have with your parents. I know that sounds a bit weird, but what I mean is the whole family, we just stayed with her in the hospice. We prepared food there, we ate there, we showered there, we slept there. We just needed to stay with our mum. So this is the first time as well when I told work that I had a death in the family, because I didn't think work needed to know. And they needed to know because, like with anybody in construction, we don't have sick day, we don't get paid off, but we don't get paid if we're off work. So, but they needed to know, and Lyndon SGB did help me out, if I'm honest, guys, really well. So this went on, Mum passed. Who did I talk to about this, Trev?
No one.
No one. Why not, mate? I just kept it on. I didn't cry about it, I should have cried more. Should have let it out. So I didn't know how to express me being sad, being all upset to my mum. Yeah, so a few months after this, I lost a couple of friends of mine as well. And I didn't talk about any of this with anybody. I didn't talk to the wife. I wasn't training so much. I was teaching now and again, but I was drinking a lot more. I was going to the pub. From my wife's side at the time, I can imagine how she was seeing it. It's like I was a guy who was getting up, going training, going to work. Everything's been positive, and all of a sudden, I was in the pub on the night times. I wasn't talking, I wasn't sharing. And all this happened within 8 months, and the last one was Nan. So Nan was the wife's Nan, but I've always called her Nan. I've known her since I was about 6.5. And every other Saturday, we used to go around Nan's house for a fry-up. I did. She used to have, do a fry-up with the fat in the frying pan. That's been there 20 years, and they've never cleaned out the frying pan. They just added more fat. And, a bit of dip and all that. But Nan passed, old age. Yeah, I didn't talk to her about anyone, Just kept it all in. Got to be strong for my kids. They've lost a Nan, they've lost a Gramps, and now they've lost Nan with the fishes. That was a great Nan. I just didn't talk about it. I was just trying to be strong, But in the end, I wasn't being strong. I stopped teaching martial arts so much either then as well, if I'm honest. I started lying. That's what you do with depression and, well, any mental health. You lie about what's going on, because you don't want to face the truth. So that went on for a while. And then all of a sudden, I remember I was working at RF Cosford. I had an access tower with a walkway to one of the hangars. It's about 60, 70 foot in the air. And my mind wasn't on the job. That's what was good. That's what's scary. I was working, but my mind wasn't there. My mind was all on this. I was having so many intrusive thoughts. I'm a bad husband. I'm a bad parent. You're not a man. What's going, all this was going on. All of it was just getting too much, man. It was just every single second of the day was getting much. And I remember that was the first time I'd done this, and that's when it started getting really scary, guys, is I went to the edge of the platform where I was. I remember thinking, well, you just jump. It seemed as I was there a long, long time. Milliseconds in reality, but I was there. I remember stepping back, and I remember thinking, and selfish. I remember this going into my head, going, what about your kids? And that's when I stepped back. I was really angry. I remember going down the access tower. I caused an argument with who I was working with, and I went home. Well, I didn't go home, I went to the pub. That's what I did. The difference with this night from any other night, I started buying bottles of vodka. and drinking them. Not to give me just courage to do anything. The thing is I just needed to get to sleep. I couldn't have these thoughts all the time. The difference from this, and then was carrying on, so this was suicidal thoughts. So I went to suicidal behaviour, started actively planning my suicide. That's scary, you know. It's even there when I talk about it, you know. I love my children that much, it hurts, yeah, if you get that. And I know everyone, but I got that ill, I thought my children would be better off without me, and that breaks my heart. All because I didn't talk about it. So this went on for a while. I was going into work, and this is when I started having days off. You know, I was a guy who a couple people relied on, then all of a sudden I wasn't turning in. And from the outside, I get it, because, you know, people at work might be going, what's going on? Why is George not coming in? Why is, you know, Matt not coming in? And, you know, I get it, because, you know, if the spanner's not turning, we're not earning, there's an old scaffolding thing. And then it all comes to a head one day, you know, it did. And I remember I was at Brindley Place in Birmingham. I had a go with the supervisor at work. It wasn't really his fault. It wasn't, you know, they are messed up, but my head just, the mask had fallen. I just lost it, you know. A bit more than usual, you know, because in construction anyway, there's always this, it's not angry, but it's like a pressure cooker all the time after being on a construction.
It's a macho environment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You live with on a site.
And so that's always there, and there's lots of anger, but this is spilling out, you know. And I thought nobody noticed, if I'm honest. But I remember this happening, and I remember I had a go at him. I remember leaving, and I went on an all-nighter. Yeah, I remember that. I remember coming in the next day. I remember, you know, can you expect how my wife was with me? You know, I get here, you know, and we were saying we had a massive argument, and what was different from any other day, we say, you know, we've all been in arguments, so when we say things we shouldn't say to both of us. And I remember leaving that day to go and end my life. I knew where I was going to go. I was 20-minute walks from where I was from my house. And this is why it's important. This is why I'm so into this. I'm not, look, mental health's a thing, like it isn't suicide prevention. It's, you know, that's where I'm coming from. But I'm asking people not to have to understand that. It's just to look out for each other. I'm here because people looked out for me. So when it all started, I thought nobody noticed. I thought I had a good mask on. I was a bit more angry, a bit more ragey than usual, but that was a bit normal. So what happened is Ian Cave, the Duke, that's his nick now, is a good lad. If I asked you to describe this guy, yeah, to describe what a scaffolder was like, this would be Ian. That's Ian Cave, the Duke. He's a big lad, speaks in a deep voice. He tries to make himself bigger. If he come through a doorway, he come through sideways. But he used to pick me up outside my house to take me to jobs and bring me back. But he just went, I remember him talk about it, he go, I didn't know how to approach George and say something because he didn't know what reaction I was going to get or how to deal with the information. So he went to Luke Caldicott, who was the transport manager in Birmingham Yard for Linden SGB, and he didn't know how to ask me. And this way he passed on to a good friend of mine I've known a long time, Ian Hines. He rang me up when I was walking. I was 10 minutes into doing what I was going to do. And guys, what was really scary, this was the calmest I've been in a long time. As soon as I met that, I was calm. It was done, dusted. I had a phone call. He rings me up and he went, George, yeah. He went, can we meet for a coffee? I said, no, first. And he went, George, he goes, people have noticed you're not being right, please. Because I know my friend would move heaven and earth to come and see me. So I met him for a coffee. We went to Nero's and he got me a coffee, he got me a croissant. How many scaffolders are you croissant?
Yeah, not many.
Yeah. Can you hear me saying it? Beautiful, by the way. I've got to try them all. I eat them all the time. I always smile when I get one now. Always. I remember eating this croissant and everything was going, you know, is what it was. And he just went, so what's going on? So I told him, and it sounded as though I was just shouting because I didn't know how to express what I was saying. I didn't know how to get it out. I didn't know how to, all these feelings that I thought, me being a man, I shouldn't have. I shouldn't be this way, you know? And like when I was talking about martial arts and stuff earlier, physical pain I could take. This was hurting me more than anything. And I remember saying it to my friend, and I expected a negative response back, as in, it's not people's fault. People say this all the time. What about your family? What about your kids? Look at what you got. But he never said that. He just said, mate, that's painful. That's so painful. You know, and it is. And then his next question was to me, are you thinking about taking your life? I remember saying, yes. So, martial artist, ex-squaddy, scaffolder, man's man, whatever that is meant to be, I get that. That's, you know, it's toxic, but I was crying in the middle of Nero's. And me being me, I remember looking at people in Nero's because I thought I wanted to cause an argument because I didn't like what was happening. And then I felt even worse because then I just saw compassion off everybody. And that was the thing. And that was my first step to getting better. It was a long, hard work. I mean, it was so much hard work getting better. Like, work got me to stop what I was doing. They got me into therapy. And then from that, I was able to build back into where I was. You know, I stopped working straight away. I was put on the sick. I was that ill. You know, I was on the sick. And back then, I think it was £96 a week or something. But I needed to be on the sick. I was done. And I come back to work 1 day a week, 2 days a week. And, you know, then it's 3 days, start paying for my own therapy. The therapy's hard, guys. You know, it really is. It's not. They don't give you the answers. They ask you some serious questions. Yeah, and that's what happened. And come back.
So, so you ended up getting really good support. But I suppose it goes back to that starting of the conversation, that your good friend called you at a moment where you decided what you were going to do. Yeah. And you managed to start that conversation, or he got you to start the conversation.
Mate, if I think about it all the time, I was just very lucky. Like, you know, I'm very spiritual, but if you really, it's not that. I was just very lucky that at that time they gave me that phone call. Because if not, I wouldn't be here. If my friends wasn't looking out for me, I wouldn't be here. You know, and that's why I'm very passionate about what I do, and that's why I'm here. And there is this as well. It's like the recovery process. It isn't easy. You know, it is. Well, a lot of people are. It's not easy, and you need support, but you need to do a lot of hard work to get in there. Whatever it is for you, like some people might not want to go to the see a professional. You know, it's whatever's counted for you, which is best. Sometimes you just need to speak to somebody, and that's the thing. Let's normalise it. Imagine if I went to my wife when she first asked me about Chris. I went, no, I'm not good. I'm broken. You know, but instead, I didn't. And that's not anyone's fault. It's no one's fault. But imagine if I'd learned about what we're doing now, if this was in place and it was all getting there. Let's get people just to talk. That's what I'm on about. And then I come back to work. I become a mental health first aider. I become an instructor for that. I do suicide first aid instructing, and now I run the wellbeing and mental health for the company for Brand Safeway, and that's what I do.
Matt, it's such an emotive story. I've heard it a lot over the last 12 months, but every time I hear it, you know, it really gets me. So thank you for being with us today.